and then the story around the movie of how it like got made, and then Netflix was like, never mind, throwing it in the trash can. Then Jordan Peele came on board, and then Universal bought it, and then it got a theater release when it was supposed to go on streaming. Like, that's pretty cool. Like,
absolute disparity in
high contrast.
Yeah, in the clothing, which plays into the story, and the sets themselves, which like fed into the story so well. It was really well done.
Typically, when we do a movie review, we go in depth of the creators and the cast, both in front and behind the camera. For this one, it's pretty simple. It's Dev Patel, and Dev Patel. he was the director, one of the writers, and the main star of the movie. Welcome to Backseat Directing,
where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more.
We're your hosts,
Andrew
and Aaron.
We put out new episodes every Monday and Thursday.
And on this episode, we're doing a movie review on Monkey Man.
3, 2, 1,
action. Boom. Dude, that trailer from Monkey Man had me so hyped for this movie. And you got to see it pretty much right as it came out. And I saw it a few weeks a little late. That's why we're a little late to this episode.
I feel like I'm at a disadvantage here because I haven't seen the movie in like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, what do I remember from the movie?
That's okay. You probably remember quite a bit. You're normally pretty good at memorizing movies.
We're about to find out.
But yeah, I was really hyped for this movie after we saw that first trailer that dropped. And then the story around the movie of how it like got made, and then Netflix was like, never mind, throwing it in the trash can. Then Jordan Peele came on board, and then Universal bought it, and then it got a theater release when it was supposed to go on streaming. Like, that's a pretty cool like twist around things.
There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that we can get into with this movie, and we can kind of like dig into it, or do you want to save it till later?
Yeah, let's kind of just go with the flow with it as we're doing our review, because today we're going to be doing a lightning review on Monkey Man, trying out a new format. So let us know what you guys think down in the comments below, if you like this style of movie review, being a little bit shorter, a little bit quicker, or if you like our longer format episodes that are a little more like an hour and 15 minutes or so. But yeah, Monkey Man came out this year, 2024. It's rated R. It's 2 hours and 1 minute long. IMDb has it rated at a 7.2 out of 10. And then Rotten Tomatoes has it at a 89. Let me see. Which one is that? 89 for the tomato meter, which is the critics, and then an 83 for the audience score.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, not too far apart.
Those are really good scores as well.
Right. Yeah. They're pretty decent, and the budget for this movie is kind of like murky because we don't know
Netflix.
Yeah, we don't know how much it was for Netflix to make the movie, but Universal bought the movie for $10 million, and the movie was done. It's like Netflix was just, they had this movie completed, and they were just like, never mind, trash can.
You got a movie that is made by Dev Patel and starring Dev Patel, and Jordan Peele now on board producing it and pitching it to his studio, which he makes movies with Universal. Like, kind of a no-brainer to pick it up for $10 million. Like, I think you can kind of assume you're going to like at least break even just reading that on paper, you know?
Yeah, and then you have like a cool movie in your portfolio, you know? So the box office for this movie isn't as big as some of the other movies that we cover, but it was just going to go on streaming beforehand. So, and again, it was required for $10 million. The box office brought in so far $28.5 million.
Well, this is also the reality of an R-rated action movie, because not as many people can go see those in theaters. To see an R-rated movie, you have to be 18 or have an adult. I think you have to have a 21-year-old with you if you're under 18.
Yeah.
So it limits the people that can see your movie. Not everyone even of age is interested in like gratuitous violence and gore that you'll often see in R-rated action movies. So I think 30 million's pretty successful venture for a movie of this quality. If you look at like even the first John Wick.
Yep, I got it pulled up right here. $86 million for the first one.
Most people I do not think would guess that low for how iconic John Wick is.
Right.
It only made 81 million. And when then you look at like the average Marvel movie, making 500-600 million. So it's a big difference from PG-13 to R-rated.
Yeah, those big blockbusters I think have kind of skewed our expectations for box office return on movies, you know?
For those that kind of glancingly look at box offices.
Right. Is it known why Netflix trashed this movie?
So, to my understanding, Netflix was worried about political ramifications with India. There was a point in the production where they went in and digitally changed the coloring of the flags that were in the movie. I don't know what the goal was there, if it was to make it seem like some India-like country that isn't quite India. But they were worried about potential backlash, so they were changing the coloring. I think since the coloring was changed back, since being purchased by Universal, um, at most I can kind of use guesswork to think what they were thinking. Like I kind of mentioned this to you previously that countries with a huge population density like India and China, they make up like a tenth to an eighth of the population of the entire world in just those two countries. And so they might have just a large pool of money in the in India. I mean, Netflix, they have different versions, like a lot of people know, for different countries. People will use like VPNs to get into Canadian Netflix to watch shows that they don't have. Like, oh my God, The Office is on Canadian Netflix. So there's Indian Netflix, which is probably a huge market for them because there's just so many people.
Right.
And just towing that tightrope of being worried about upsetting viewers. If it could be from, unfair portrayal of the government. This movie shows like officials either in the military or in the police force kind of corrupt or like misusing their power, or it could be from showing classism, which we see very popularly shown in Asian films and Asian culture, like Korean movies, Japanese movies, and Indian movies. So could be an unfavorable representation of that class gap and how the lower class live in India, and they just didn't want that potential backlash, and we're trying to play it safe. And they figured, hey, even if say they spent $15 million in the movie, they say, if we were gonna scrap it and cut it up to taxes, maybe we can just give it to Universal for 10 million instead and kind of cut our losses.
Right. And I mean, them getting $10 million from it, like seems like a decent deal for them as well, because it's just going on streaming to entice people to keep or sign up for a new membership. Typically, when we do a movie review, we go in depth of the creators and the cast, both in front and behind the camera. For this one, it's pretty simple. It's Dev Patel, and Dev Patel. He was the director, one of the writers, and the main star of the movie. We encourage you to go look on IMDb or where else you get your movie information for the rest of the cast and crew, because I think overall they did a great job on this movie. But we're going to move into our ratings of the film, starting with story, which Andrew kind of already touched on a little bit, of kind of like the misuse of power and stuff in a powerful police figure in the movie. So Andrew, what did you think of the story? What did you give it out of 10 points for Monkey Man?
So I gave the story rating a 7.5. And
Nice.
With the lightning episodes, we kind of do a lightning rating and kind of do our ratings pretty fast.
Were you not prepared? Is that you just saying that you weren't prepared?
Never prepared.
You heard it here, and you heard it here first. Andrew doesn't prepare for this
To
podcast.
explain my lightning thought process on the 7.5, it's that this movie is very similar to what we would traditionally see in like the action genre. You were really far into this, but spoiler alert for Monkey Man. He has his mother killed by the corrupt government officials, and then he's like vowing vengeance against the people who killed his mother, and his journey back there as a nameless, anonymous person from like the lower class coming up to fight these big, powerful elites. So it has a twist on it. The twist being like this really cultural element to the movie, taking place in India, having very specific elements of that culture that we don't see in like every revenge film, like Taken or whatnot. Taken has European vibes because he travels over there, but I think I give it that extra 0.5 because it has that twist and it has those elements that kind of elevate it, the class structure ideas, the culture of the country, but ultimately, like, boiled down to his core, it's like his mother was killed and he's going after the people who did it, which is a very common thread in movies. But I think it's just very well executed is the key to the movie being good.
Yeah.
Because it is good.
I gave it a 7 out of 10, and for a lot of the similar reasons. It's a very simplistic story, which I feel like a lot of people have a negative connotation when you say like, oh, it's simple, like, because no story is actually simple. It's very complicated to put together a good story, whether it's super complex or relatively straightforward. It's still difficult to do.
It's gotta be so difficult even to put together like the spoof movies, like not to knock on like spoof movies like Epic Movie and Scary Movie and stuff. It's gotta be they're just having fun, it seems like, but it's when you go like backstage, it's probably very complicated.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of kept it at the 7 mainly because I was wanting a little bit more like range of emotion, I think, because this was full force revenge, like there was no other emotion that you felt really during this, like there wasn't any like dynamics, I guess, in the range of emotion that I was feeling. So that's why I didn't like bump it up to like a 7.5 or an 8 or 8.5 for me. Um, but then this kind of brings us into the acting. So this is the performances, but also some of the stunts and stuff that these actors and stuntmen are performing. This is also out of 10 points. Andrew, what did you give?
I gave it an 8.
An 8? Solid.
And I thought Dev Patel really put the movie on his back, which you would have to expect from somebody who's directing,
Absolutely.
starring, and writing on the movie and doing a lot of his own stunts. I thought like the scene in the bathroom where he confronts his mother's killer and he says blessings from my mother, and just the tears welling up in his eyes, and like I thought it was so well performed throughout. I thought that moment really stood out to me, but also like got to knock it up to an 8 for like the fight choreography in the movie.
Absolutely.
What about you?
Yeah, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. And I feel like I could definitely be persuaded into an 8 for sure. The stunt work, phenomenal. The movie's choreography was fantastic. Dev Patel's performance was amazing. Everyone else to me didn't stick out as much as Dev Patel.
Not even his little friend. I call her Nicki Minaj. Big bumper, nice headlights.
Yeah, everyone else did a great job too.
But they didn't stick out to you as much.
Right.
It was really his show.
Yeah. So I think 7.5 for just like, again, just diversity of characters and their involvement in the actual like plot of the movie, you know? Still pretty solid.
I always think it's interesting how this happens in a lot of movies where there's like the secondary villain, like because you have like the kind of main villain who's like the enforcer in this movie, because like maybe they think it's unrealistic to write like the higher up villain being so skilled in fighting. So then you've got like the guy who's like a rung below him and he's the enforcer who can really like go toe to toe. And then you've got like the overarching like power force.
The man in the chair.
But he feels like kind of disconnected from the plot in a lot of ways. You see him like doing yoga in like some scenes, and it's like this guy just doesn't feel like, I don't feel the like.
I'm not afraid of him.
Yeah.
I'm
afraid of the other guy, and also that's the guy who killed his mom, so I'm emotionally tethered to like the revenge story for him. This other guy, I'm like, I could kind of take it or leave it if he wants to go after him. I don't really know.
Yeah. I kind of even forgot about him.
It's easy to forget about him.
After he killed the brute guy, I was like, oh, where do we go now? The movie's over, right?
Which that scene was still cool. When he went after him, there was really cool shots, and then it was like kind of gory when he got stabbed by him.
Okay, quick question. Do you think he died or do you think he lived?
Patel?
Yep.
I'm gonna say he lived.
I think he died.
You think so?
Yeah. I feel like it's either he dies or goes to jail.
I like the idea that he lived, because like the picture they showed in the background in that final scene where he like kills the big villain is like that god that is like, they said his name during the movie, but the god with the monkey face, that's like him like over like this big battlefield. And I feel like if he's like emerging as this like hero figure, like I feel like the hero should come out on top and live.
I like movies that leave it open,
because you get to have these conversations. Yeah,
right?
It's a lot more
exactly.
fun.
Okay, one of my favorite categories of filmmaking, and that is cinematography. This is out of 10 points, and this includes all the like camera work, the composition, the lighting, the color grade. There's a lot involved in this, and we also include like visual effects and stuff in this as well. What did you give the cinematography out of 10, Andrew?
I gave the cinematography a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, solid. It was so good, right?
Before I describe why, I want to hear what you gave it.
Yeah, I gave it an 8.5.
You've literally been 0.5 behind me for all 3 of these.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Let's see how it goes on down the line. But we're right there.
That's
right
funny.
There.
If it stays that way, that'll be the most like in sync that we've been.
We've really been hoping to get to one where, because we never share our ratings beforehand. So
right.
I'm really hoping to get to the point one day where we have that perfect in sync rating.
Yeah. I love the cinematography of this movie so much.
It's gorgeous.
Especially in the first half where they're creating like a lot of tension and stuff, and he's like building up that anger as he's seeing that girl like get touched and stuff when she doesn't really want to, like, and he like is getting so angry, and it's like, oh, he's gonna go beat him up, but no, like he just went outside kind of thing. Like It was so good, and they did a great job of like using foreground elements to kind of obscure and block the frame, and like when they like did shots of him like through glass, and you see like kind of multiple slivers of him and the reflections and stuff, or even in the final fight when they have those like little silver gold spheres that are
Yeah.
floating and they shoot the actors through that. Like
Also,
that was
just
so cool.
really like intelligent placement like throughout the movie, like the scene where he's like, what's your name? And we never learn the character's real name in this movie, but he says Bobby. And
Mhm.
then as the camera like moves across, as that character he's talking to walks around the kitchen, you see like the cleaning product that says Bobby on it.
Right.
But they don't have to do like an insert, they don't have to do like a really tight shot on that.
Yeah.
It's shown
It's just plain.
very well done, to where it's like that the
If
bright
you
green of
notice it,
yeah.
you notice it. If you don't, no big
Yeah,
deal.
and it's so easy to notice it, too,
Yeah.
the way that they shot it. So
Mhm.
I think that they shot really intelligently, but also the lighting was just a hallmark of this movie.
Dude, so good. The lighting was phenomenal. I enjoyed it a lot. Like they were very stylistic with their colors, but it all felt like, oh, like this is just how the environment looks.
And
you
really,
know?
really creative with the camera placement and movement, like placing
Yep.
the camera underneath the bleachers as he was walking in the
Yeah.
early part of the film, placing the camera above the ceiling fan, which I imagine
Oh.
that ceiling fan was probably added in post.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but like that's a shot from the trailer
cool,
that I really
yeah.
liked. So they
The haze in the arena was so cool, where it's just like it's like great set design, you know, because the set itself is super simple. You know, they're probably just in this big warehouse. They built up these bleachers, you know, and they have the boxing square in the middle. And then they just have these giant warm lights shining down and a bunch of haze.
Yeah.
So, like, everything in the distance just disappears. And it looks so cool.
For those listening, we know it's called the boxing ring, but we're gonna go with boxing square from here
Yeah,
on
it's a square.
out. It is.
I was describing the.
It is a square.
Yeah.
Good job.
You want to fight right
knows,
now?
He knows his shapes.
You want to fight right now?
The boxing square.
I'll take you on right now.
But possibly my favorite shot of the movie is one we already touched on at the end of the movie, when they're like shooting from outside the window. And he's walking past that big painting of that god with the monkey face, and he's approaching like the side profile of him versus like the main villain.
Yeah.
Him, like, he walks up to where the monkey god is on that portrait, and stops right in line with it. And like the blocking and the angle of the shot, I was like, oh,
It's very
Chef's
well
kiss.
thought out.
Yeah.
I also really like the editing. Like, I feel like the pace was really cool of how they like transitioned from shot to shot, you know? And
A lot of long takes in this movie.
Yeah, a
especially
lot of
with the
long
fights,
takes.
Like they have lengthy shots.
there was a lot of like shaky cam stuff though, it kind of pieced in there.
Nothing compared to Bourne.
Not like Bourne, but at certain points it did become a little much, where it was like I was hyper aware that it was a shaky cam.
Like in that scene where he bites the guy's nose off or whatever. I feel
Mhm.
like there was a lot in that scene. I can see what you're saying there.
It was kind of like the middle fights where there was a lot of like this shaky action cam, you know, where he's like fighting guys, but it's not like the main fights of the movie. And there was like a lot of quick cuts and stuff. And it's like, okay, I'm just a little hyper aware of like all of this stuff going on.
But
But overall, they did such a good job of like blending the smooth shots with these like action shots to show intensity.
Yeah.
It was so good.
The alternative side to that too is like they did such a good job of like showing practical blood and practical, like the nose coming off that guy looked really good visually. So like even when they did use special effects, or like when he was stabbing that guy's throat in the elevator,
Yeah.
that was the elevator fight at
Used
the
his
third act of the
teeth
movie.
to Dry it in.
Pushed the knife into his throat. Like they made that all look so phenomenal.
Yeah, it was great. All right, what about sound design? This is our next category. This is out of 10 points as well. And this includes the soundtrack, the score, the Foley work, so all the sound effects that you hear. Sound design, 10 points. What'd you give it?
I personally gave it an 8 out of 10. I'd be curious to know what you gave it.
We flipped
You went 8.5?
8.5.
We're still 0.5 range.
Still 0.5 range. I gave it an 8.5. Maybe because I saw it more recently to us actually writing out these ratings.
Yeah.
They did a great job with all of their like sound effects kind of elevating the score. You know, like the environment was a really big part of what you heard. And I just remember sitting there being like, wow, I love the visuals and the uh like sounds that we're hearing from these shots, even like the simple shots, you know, where they did a great job of like transitioning scenes with visuals and audio, you know.
I feel like we were getting a lot of sitar in there too, like the Indian guitar with that
Hmm.
little theme. And we hear it even in the trailer, like the din 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 din, din,
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
fun.
Yeah, it was really well. Like I don't know, it was just a cool mix of like cultural music, like music that had like an Indian tone to it, and then also like Western music for some of like the like fighting elements. Like I feel like when they played a song like in like the chase scene, like I was kind of rocking in my chair to
Yeah.
like the soundtrack. You know, the soundtrack was real. I thought
Well,
hit really hard.
yeah, the big fight at the end, like right before he fights the final boss, and like all the like his team comes in, you know, and it's like a bunch of people fighting each other. They just had like a song playing the whole time, you know, and it was kind of had that vibe to it, you know, where you're just kind of bopping your head, and it's like the song like almost feels like it doesn't fit the tone, and for some reason that's the reason why it fits so well,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And then of course we get to that end fight, you know, and everything like
quiets
gets
down.
really serious and whatnot.
Yeah, the mix was definitely really good. I mean, the delivery of all the audio, the punches landing, like there wasn't quite as many gunshots in this movie. It was definitely a really up close and personal, which is a trademark of the genre. It's like
Hmm.
all these guys pour into the like dining area or whatever to fight him, and they're like, "We all brought knives."
Yeah. Our next category is set and character design. So this is like a lot of the reasoning behind why they chose to shoot where they're shooting, why is the character wearing what they're wearing, and all of that stuff. This is out of 5 points. Andrew, what did you give it?
I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Nice. I did as well. So we
Dang it,
messed up our
point 5.
0.5 difference.
But I thought that the set and character design was like its own, you know, took on its
Character.
whole own role, its
Yeah.
own character in this movie. Like when you look at the difference in sets from like where he's sleeping on the ground surrounded by other people from the boxing square, it's like a totally different world to like the high class sets to like this
Right.
big multi-storied building with like platinum and diamonds and like bright shining gems. Like the cutlery is all very high class in those areas. So you can really feel the disparity. Like there's nowhere shot in the movie that's like in the middle. There's no middle class identified in any of the scenes. It's either like they're in rubble and ruins where people are living to like escape like hate crimes, or they're in like slums where like the shops are all very low class and people are sleeping on the streets, or then they're in high class, people eating caviar and like having escorts like fawn over them. Absolute disparity in
High contrast.
yeah, in the clothing, which is plays into the story, and the sets themselves, which like fed into the story so well. It was really well done.
Also, we haven't even talked about his mask.
Oh, the mask was really
Awesome,
cool. I
right?
like I liked when he dipped it in the bleach, into Bobby's bleach.
Yeah.
Bobby's bleach was a big element of this movie. Its own character, one could say.
Yeah. Imagine if that's like a real brand. I mean, I don't know if it is,
Making
but
them so
they
much
just
money.
got, yeah. Okay, rewatchability. This was a fun category. We rate this out of 5 points, and the way we frame this question is if you were doing nothing and someone asked you 5 different times, how many times would you rewatch this movie? And your answer for this one, Andrew, was
3.5 out of 5 times.
nice. Yeah, solid. We went back to the half-point difference. I was at 2.5. So half the time, I'd say yes.
That's a 1 point difference.
Oh, did you say 3.5?
3.5.
Oh, my bad. If I said 3.
So you do know your shapes, but you don't know your
I'm
basic
working on
addition
it.
and subtraction.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Numbers are tough. I'm a visual person, you know. So the square is right there in front of me. The point difference.
He's a savant with shapes. You
Yeah.
show him any, like, look at this, Aaron.
Rectangle.
Oh, I
already
didn't
knew.
even,
Yeah.
I couldn't even pick it up in time.
Yeah, I just knew. I didn't even.
You didn't even look.
Look back at the rewind right there. I didn't even move my eyes. I just saw it out of my peripheral.
God, you're just an animal with shapes.
Okay, so you'll be down to watch this quite a few times, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those movies that's like niche too, which is what I think that always plays like a factor in ramping up my rewatchability score. Because like when we talked about, I don't remember whatever movie I set it on, but like if somebody asked me like, do you want to watch Boondock Saints? My rewatchability score is going to be higher because I'm like, you know, Boondock Saints. Like this is like that kind of movie for me, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like I would be more apt to watch Monkey Man, especially person asked me hadn't seen it. It's like one of those movies where I'd be like, oh, like look how he like throws him here, and like look at the choice to just use the blood and gore in this tight, close knit fight in this
Dude, the
elevator.
movie's intense.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's super cool, and I think people who love action, this is the kind of movie that everyone should be watching.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
For
you watch it
sure.
like half the time. I could see the critique. I mean, I only give it a 3.5. It's not that high. My critique on rewatchability would be like the movie I think gets really, really going in like the third act.
Mm.
Like I think like the first two acts, it's like the action's kind of lighter. He's not really performing as well in the fights, which is arguably to build up to when he has this big training sequence. I think when he has his training sequence, the movie like really takes flight. And like that's another big point for the sound design that I forgot to mention, but I really wanted to hit on. When they're timing the sound of like those drums or the bongos that the guy's playing to the training,
Oh yeah, that's cool.
rhythmically using
That's
the
cool.
music,
Yeah.
so well edited, so well like mixed on the sound. It's beautifully done because like the punching rhythm is like he's getting into like the flow, and he comes back fighting so much better after that.
Mhm.
So like that third act when he comes into like the restaurant again through the kitchen and just starts whooping ass, that's like I think the movie just elevates to another level right there. So knowing going into a rewatch, I knock it like that 1.5 down from 5 because like I know there's a lot of elements of the movie where like I wasn't as excited in like those first two. It's still good.
Yeah.
But I think it really hits stride.
I really liked the first act. I think it does kind of get a little maybe slower, repetitive in the middle, and then obviously the ending is epic.
You know what's such a good moment in the first act is, and again for the sound design, is when he steals, I think, that lady's purse or phone. The
Mm.
lady who works underneath, she like runs the kitchen and works in the restaurant. He has somebody like attempt like trying to like ask her for money, steal her like wallet, and then everybody's handing it through like the area. Like he has
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
in on this, and it's like playing that upbeat song. It's like going so fast. I was bopping in my chair. I was like so well shot as a sequence too, because it was just so smooth, editing the cuts of everybody handing it to the next person.
It was like a little unnecessary how many handoffs they had, because the last handoff was like they gave it to someone who walked it over like 5 feet. They gave it to him, but it was really cool.
It just was shot so cool,
Yeah,
and then like
it
he's so
was.
casually just standing in place, waiting for the whole plan
Yeah.
to come to fruition. Like
Yeah.
that was one of my favorite sequences in the movie.
Yeah.
Even if it's like stretching your sense of disbelief, like that they would be so organized.
I was totally fine with
Yeah,
it, for sure.
It looked
Yeah.
it looked so cool, and it was like it highlights too like the community, how like people of a lower class like come together, and
Yeah.
how they can come together and be like such a force. It's like they were so organized.
Right.
It was really well done.
What did your overall score come out to, Andrew?
8.0 out of 10,
Nice. Solid.
which is in line with how I feel.
So did you like this movie more than The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare? Because you rated it higher.
I think I would have to say I do.
Yeah.
I like the high points of Ministry better than I liked the high points of this movie. But overall, I think that throughout Monkey Man was better. And there was just large swaths of Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare where I was like, man, I wish we could get back to the gentleman, the
Yeah.
ungentlemanly gentleman.
Yeah. My overall score came out to a 7.6 out of 10.
How did
So
that compare
not too
to
far off.
your Ministry rating?
Ministry, I gave an 8. So not too far off. I think you had a bigger gap between the two. But yeah, solid movie. This
feel
movie
like-
was great. It definitely deserves more people going to see it in theaters, that's for sure.
Monkey Man feels kind of more artistically made to me.
Yeah, in a way. I think part of that is like it was shot more at like night, so like that you really got to see like the cinematographer like playing with the lighting and the atmospheric, the fog and all this stuff, like and the set design.
Well, it's
Ministry
more
was
dramatic.
more, yeah, Ministry was more like they're outside in the middle of the day on the boat, so like the background is just the ocean kind of thing. So it's not as like stylistic, but it still was crisp,
I probably tend to give a higher rating to movies that are more like
moody.
dark, moody,
Yeah.
dramatic.
Yeah.
But they're both very good movies. I think
For
I would
sure.
put Monkey Man like just above, and then I put Civil War down at the bottom for this month as of right now. And
Okay, interesting.
Probably
There we
this
go.
weekend go to see Boy Kills World and Challengers and see where they fall on the April ranking. April's so sick.
Yeah. What did you guys think of Monkey Man and I guess all the other movies that came out this month that you've seen? How would you rank them out? Let us know down in the comments below. We post new full episodes every Monday and Thursday. Be sure to let us know too how you like this quicker movie review format, and we'll kind of keep implementing it and still do our longer ones because I know we enjoy that a lot. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Andrew, where else are we?
We're on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, X, anywhere that you find social media, you can find Backseat Directing. We're also everywhere you can find podcasts. We're on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Make sure to go on Spotify and give us a follow and a rating, preferably 5 stars, but we will accept 4.5. I don't even know if they do halves. But that helps the show out a ton. Another thing you can do to help us out, if you're feeling very generous, is you can share us with your friends and family, fellow movie lovers and TV show lovers. It helps get the podcast out there, helps us grow this community. You can also, along with those friends and family, join in on our, not our Patreon, excuse me. You could.
Well, yeah, we do have Patreon.
But what I wanted to invite you to is our Discord, which costs how much again?
Free.
For free. But it's absolutely free. You can join in there with us and join in on cool conversations about movies, TV shows, comic books, and more. We're in there pretty much every day chatting it up with our friends.
Yeah, we've been doing polls lately.
Oh,
That's been the new
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Justin specifically has been throwing out a lot of
big
polls,
poll
and it's
guy.
been a lot of fun kind of debating.
Yeah.
You know, what's the questions and stuff that he's putting in there.
But we also like to just chat about movies and stuff. And we take topic suggestions in there as well. So you can kind of get your foot into the show and pick what you want to hear us talk about.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for watching, and
That's a wrap.
I almost said catch you on the next one, which I've never said before.